Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another Toonkind at 12 frames per second. I am Hexabeast, just Hex is fine. Today I am playing my boy, my baby boy, my good sweet baby boy, Matthias. Uh, and I am
Forget
joined.
his name for a second there.
No, I was just doing a bit. Uh,
I know, sorry, I'm teasing.
eh. But I am
Sweet.
joined by my wonderful friend. Please introduce yourself.
Hello, I am Gail. I'm also here. It's been a bit since I've done a D&D, but here I am.
Yeah,
Hopefully I remember how to fucking do this.
I believe in you.
I don't, so at least that makes one of us.
Yay, haha, yay. Well, to be fair, this is going to be more of a talking thing, so
Yeah,
you
we're
know,
not doing anything intensive. We're,
it,
ju- we're just having a fun little chat.
exactly, because, and that's exactly it. Matthias has, this is, so first of all, we're rewinding the clock a little bit. Um, Back to shortly after, what the hell was that game called? Uh,
Mhm.
it was something like You Did What? I think.
Oh, like, yeah, that little
Yeah,
chunk of the boyfriend arc.
yeah, the tail end of the boyfriend arc where uh it was revealed that Matthias is actually the owner is he has thrall's he is thrall's soul, has thrall's soul. He's not sure the logistics of that, which is kind of also part of this whole thing. And
Hmm.
it answered a lot of questions that he had, but it also raised many, many more. And those questions are ones that he knows only one person who would be able to answer that. And that would be, his goddess, Lady Retrospect, who,
Notoriously hard to get a hold of.
yes, notoriously hard. Like, he can, like, call out and pray and get, like, a feeling of, like, she's there, she's listening, but that's kind of about it. Like, he gets the comfort of her presence, but that's about all he usually gets. So he's he's not expecting much, but he's still going to put out a request to talk. Basically, is the best way. Like, I don't even think this is framed as a prayer because he doesn't, like, for all that he is a cleric and for all he does, like, follow Lady Retrospect. He doesn't pray very good. He's kind of bad at it. Uh,
I actually do have a thing I could potentially throw at you if you like.
oh,
Because if I remember right, the whole boyfriend arc shenanigans, that all happened after Fun and Funky Adventures in the Desert, yes?
yes.
So while he was in the desert, we never were able to finish that mini campaign, and to be honest, we probably won't because my DM spoons are gone. But um, I'm really sorry about that, by the way. But while he was there, that was Retrospect's holy city back in the day. That was,
Yeah.
kind of her center of power way back when, before she started erasing herself from the collective memory.
Yep.
Um, so it's potentially possible that, while he was there, in the unseen episode where we all go and hang out in a funny library, he might have found some more concrete ways of getting the lady's attention.
That's a fair thing to say. And he probably, like, I feel like it's one of those he wouldn't try it immediately because he doesn't want to just be like, because one, he came off the tail end of actually getting to talk to her for the first time ever, uh, and that was an emotional experience for him. But two, he
Mm-hmm.
doesn't want to, like, take advantage of that, so he probably held on to that knowledge until he felt he needed, like, to really talk with her. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, this feels like a pretty good reason to want to talk to Lady Retrospect.
Yeah, this would be a good moment.
Yeah, just a little bit. So he's going to attempt. He doesn't know what to expect. He's kind of not expecting much beyond what he normally gets, but he's gonna try.
Mm-hmm. You know, might as well try the funny little summoning ritual thing at least once.
Exactly.
Um, and I've mentioned before, although I have since changed what it looks like, but I've mentioned before that retrospect summoning ritual shenanigans is actually quite simple. Um, you will need
Mm-hmm.
um, a candle, a bit of salt, and some kind of cord or ribbon, uh, or strip of film, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, what you do is you draw Retrospect's hourglass symbol in that salt, uh, place the candle sort of in the topmost part of the hourglass, uh, wrap whatever cord you have around it, and then light the candle.
Mm-hmm. And so he does these things, and he doesn't have any frame of reference for if this will work or not. So he's just kind of hoping. As he steps back from the drawn hourglass and whispers both a please work and also a can we talk kind of prayer.
Mm-hmm.
And he waits.
Roll perception.
Oh boy. What is your perception? Oh, it's okay. It's pretty good. Do 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 do. Unless you roll a 2 on the dice.
Sorry, I don't mean to
No, it's fine. So that's an 11 total.
Gotcha. So, I think I know how to flavor this, because a lot of people, like, when they're doing prayer shenanigan stuff, will either focus very closely on one specific thing, or they'll have their fucking eyes shut.
Yep.
So, Matthias does not notice as the color bleeds out of the room around him, or as time in the space he's in slows to a crawl and then to a stop. He does notice the sound of rain starting up.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the warning he gets before, behind him, there comes a familiar voice. Well, been a while since I've seen anyone use that.
I think he squawks in surprise and he does a little squawk of like, oh, and jumps before spinning to face Retro, and he kind of stares and like, oh, it worked.
Where are we right now?
We are in his
Are
room.
we? Gotcha. Okay, I figured.
Yeah.
So, Retro is kind of just, like, perched on the edge of Matthias's bed.
Mm-hmm.
The way you might, like, sit on someone else's bed during a sleepover.
Yeah.
And she just kind of smiles at him, just does a little jazz hands, like, ta-da!
I think I think he stares at her, and then he slowly, just kind of in a oh there go the legs, sinks to his knees. Like mouth agape, like, oh, it worked, you're here. I didn't think I'd get this far.
She kind of cringes a bit at that and is just like, oh, come on, none of that now, come on. And she, like, will stand up, walk over to him, and just kind of scoop him up under the arms to get him back on his feet.
Which is hilarious because she's shorter than him.
Yeah, she's tiny.
But he stands and he's just he hasn't said a word yet beyond, "Oh, it worked." Uh and
Yeah.
the,
So she just brings him up to his feet, floats a little bit so she can pat him on the top of the head.
mhm. He gapes like a fish for another second or two before he finally remembers to close his mouth because that's polite. Um,
Wait, can I make one more funny?
yes.
Retro just does like the cartoon tune thing of like closing his mouth for him.
Yes. Which I think is enough to like shake him from his surprise. And he doesn't seem to know what to do with himself because on one hand he feels like he should kneel. On the other hand, he part of him says don't, no, you don't have to. Part of him is like, but it's polite. But what do I do? She's here. She's in my room. I didn't expect I'd get this far. And finally he just says, "You came."
You called.
I um I I suppose I did.
And she kind of looks over at the candle and the salt configuration, and there's a little bit of a nostalgic look to her expression as she's like, "Yeah, I'd recognize that ritual anyway. It's been a while since I've heard it, but
I I learned it in
you did a
Requiem.
good job.
He
I'd imagine it was
give
their creation."
he gives a little lopsided smile, just like uh before he shakes himself and with all of the eloquence of his 8 charisma, uh I'm sorry, his 9 charisma, uh
Moving up in the world.
moving up in the world. With all of the eloquence his 9 charisma can give him, just says, "I wanted to ask you something. It's kind of important."
Well, I got that impression. What can I do for you?
I and he kind of fiddles his hands together, tugs at his sleeves.
I think seeing how, nervous he is and like remembering, the like recognizing the not really knowing what to do with himself thing, she will just kind of hover back over, sit down on the edge of the bed and just kind of pat the spot next to her like, "Come on, gossip hour, let's chat."
And he'll come and he'll sit. He he doesn't he kind of perches just cuz it's still like, this is still Lady Retrospect. He should still show some decorum. But also he does sit and he tries to like not be so nervous. He's trying. Uh
He's like sitting prim and proper, and then she's just crisscross applesauce.
mhm. Mhm. Except he's perched like, because he can't sit in a non-homosexual way. So he's like perched on his knees. Like he's sitting like with his knees folded under him and he's just kind of perched. And
Mm-hmm.
it's easy to like slouch to one side once you get comfortable, but he hasn't done that yet. So
Mm-hmm.
he's just sitting and he says, "I learned some things about myself recently."
Saw that.
Yes, I okay. uh that means he doesn't have to explain what he saw or what he learned. And he nods and he just says, "I wanted to ask you about that."
Hmm. And she kind of hums, and like I said, she's sitting cross-legged, and she kind
Mm-hmm.
of um props her elbow up on one of her knees and rests her chin in it, and kind of waves the other hand like, "Ask what you will, I will can't promise anything satisfying, but
He nods. And he just kind of, it sucks in a breath, tries to gather his words, and then eventually just says, "What, to my understanding, when all of that," referencing the whole Ongum pushing Thrall's soul out, uh, happened, it should have just been the end there. But the way that I can figure it is you took that soul? He kind of winces, like, that's not the right way to phrase that, but I don't know a better way. Uh,
and she just kind of grins and says, "Oh yeah, I stole it."
oh, well, I, why?
I don't abide by tragedy.
He kind of thinks about that for a second. Like, yeah, I guess, like, in his head, he's kind of like, that kind of makes some sense.
One
Like,
whole sense.
one whole sense. And he kind of he tries to, like, because he still has a question of, like, hmm, why you don't abide tragedy, but that, why me specifically?
And she kind of, honestly, she shrugs. You seemed interesting. You seemed, well, to answer the question the way that I did the first time you ever asked this, I have a fondness for shiny things.
He kind of blinks at Retro, like, what?
She, I'm so sorry. She's just handing me not explaining of just,
Yep.
honestly, roll insight real quick.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. That's not terrible if I remember how to math right. So 9 plus 9 is 18.
Yeah, so her passive deception is stupid high, so I'm not gonna give
Yeah.
you everything,
Yeah.
obviously. But she there is this air that might be familiar to you, given what your something is,
Mm-hmm.
given who your something is.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, she is being intentionally cagey.
Okay.
She is intentionally giving short, slightly vague answers.
Yeah. And he,
Um,
for all that it does kind of frustrate him a little bit, he doesn't question or argue it. He just kind of accepts it as, like, I guess I'm not meant to know that.
mm-hmm. I can give you one more little thing, I guess,
Okay.
of just there is something behind that intentional obfuscation. It's not done with malice. You can tell that much. She's
Mm-hmm.
not mocking you or trying to frustrate you. It's
Mm-hmm.
more of you get the impression that she is not one to elaborate much on her motivations.
Okay. And that, with everything that he has kind of learned between Requiem and his own research and just, like, what the kind of like bits he gets when he, prays to Retro or gets any kind of like vague notion of a response, that yeah, okay. Like this fits with what he knows about her.
Mhm.
Um I think he accepts that as just okay, something about them, me, whatever was interesting then. That I guess makes sense. And then he kind of he shifts a little bit, focus a little bit to and says, "All right. Um then hmm, why now? Why or no, how would he word this? He would oh, I know. Did I have did I have a life prior to and he kind of like makes a vague hand wave of like in the past, like he's referencing like did I have anything prior to where my memory begins 2 years ago, basically 2.5 years ago, basically.
She kind of. Hmm. She kind of frowns at that and just says, "How do you mean?"
I don't i don't remember anything prior to, well, stumbling out of an alley. Did I
Yeah, I
have
put you in a box.
yeah, you what?
It was funny.
I Why?
She just shrugs.
Because it was funny.
Because it was funny.
To be fair, he did get laughed at, but but he's also just like that. I what but he does eventually realize what Retro says as it clicks, and he just says, "Wait, you put me there, so
Yeah.
I didn't have anything from when you stole me to when you put me there."
She kind of wobbles a hand. And again, there's that slightly uncomfortable pinch to her expression
Mm-hmm.
where she's not used to having this kind of conversation.
Okay.
She just kind of wiggles her hand and says, "I mean, you were with me for a bit. You know, standard bargain, but you weren't in this world before that. Honestly, you weren't supposed to be here for another bit yet because I was still trying to convince you to take a proper deal and you never did. But things
Uh,
happened.
prop proper proper deal. What?
You have always been so insistent on giving more than you get."
He kind of blinks at that because I mean she's right, but
She kind of like reached over and booped him on the nose when she said that.
he blinks at that and he just says, "Well, you, from what I understand, saved me. So, yeah."
She just kind of. She just gives like this exasperated huff. Like she's visibly not mad at you, Matthias, but it's
Mm-hmm.
just like Very much that energy of, oh, here we go again. You get the sense you've had this conversation with her before.
Mm-hmm. And it to him it's a strange feeling because it's both familiar and yet not. And that's kind of a strange feeling to have. Because he
It's
does.
deja vu.
It is, and he's not used to deja vu. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but he sits there and he just says, "I." So, what? So what then was the deal supposed to be?
She kind of winces and rubs at the back of her neck and just says, I don't usually do the cleric patron shit. I'm not good at this. Uh Sunshine, I'm really bad at this. I I'm much better I'm much better with an equal give and take. I'm much better in my comfort zone. I'm much better warlock patron than I am a patron god.
He.
But
Oh.
always insistent.
He kind of blinks at that and he thinks because it to him it feels like he hasn't done enough to warrant what Retro has given him from his standpoint because like again she kind of saved his life and is also giving him power uh,
Mm-hmm.
and that feels like that warrants more than what he calls what he tries to pass off as thankfulness and I don't want to say worship, but it like
I
because
mean, he's a cleric. It
yeah,
is
it is
show of faith.
worship, but it isn't traditional worship.
Yeah, it's show of faith.
Yeah. So he like he's not very good at that. And he kind of thinks and then he says, "I it doesn't feel like this is a one-sided agreement? No, not. It doesn't feel one-sided
She kind of
to me."
and she nods and rakes a hand through her hair and kind of grumbles, I know, and you've said that before. It's just I'm used to doing more, and you
He
gotta let me."
he thinks and he gets the situation is kind of starting to feel a little familiar
Mm-hmm.
in a way that he's just like, am I going to do this again but with a goddess? And he says, I would it and then he tries to figure out how best to word this in a way that doesn't sound foolish, but well, it's gonna sound a little foolish. And he just says, "Would it help if I wrote down what I expect, or what if you laid out what you want to do?" Um, mm,
She kind of looks at him a little bit and doesn't say anything immediately, just kind of waits for him to potentially elaborate.
And he tries to, he does, he's thinking. He's trying to figure out how to word this, and he says, "You said you're more used to warlocks who are more equal, and, well, I, I've, I mean, I've written out things to expect from relationships," and he colors a little in his face because, oh, that feels strange to say. Oh, that feels
Yeah, and
very strange.
she does get a bit of the Cheshire Cat smile at that.
But maybe it would, this is another relationship. Maybe it would help to set terms or what is expected.
She kind of she pauses and kind of tilts her head. Mm. Well, like a proper contract then.
And he nods, like, well, from my understanding, that's what warlocks go through. And I mean, yes, I am a cleric, but who's to say it can't be a little similar?
There is a visible moment of tension going out of her because uh rolling off your 18 earlier, she is intentionally being easier to read than usual because she's kind of trying to approach you on your level.
Mm-hmm.
You have just put the ball in her court.
Yep.
You have just moved things way more within her wheelhouse and her comfort zone.
Yep.
And she was hiding it really well. So you don't notice just how tense she was until that tension goes away.
Mm-hmm.
And she kind of nods and is like, that would be helpful. That would be incredibly helpful, actually.
And he nods, uh, and says, "Oh, all right, then. I mean, we can do that." Uh, and he stands, pads over to his desk to get a notebook and a pencil.
Mm-hmm.
Flips through it because you notice there's another sort of list. There's a bunch of lists on there, of various things, and he flips to a blank page and draws a line down the center.
And she kind of hums, and there's a little bit of a look of familiarity and a little bit of a look of amusement.
Mm-hmm.
And she kind of, you know, she's still, very casual in her posture, and she admits, usually we just talk this sort of thing out, but having it in writing is good too.
I've I found writing helps ease my own anxieties.
That's fair.
She would probably know from his various talks with his therapist, if she ever happened to listen in, that, like, yeah, this is part of therapy. So he's trying to be good and he's trying to get a good grade in therapy.
Yeah. And, like, her impulse is to ruffle his hair about it, but she instead just kind of stays pretty casual.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But he goes back to perch on the bed and sets the notebook between them, and he just says, I admit I don't know where to begin, But I guess we can start with. I mean, you already offer me my power, and that's a fair chunk right there, I guess. So what
She
would
kind of wrinkles her nose, just like, is it real?
Matthias kind of like waggles his hands like I wouldn't be able to do what I do without it. Like,
You are able to do magic already.
but I wouldn't be able to help. And he thinks back to the Ballroom Blitz game where Decimal fell in combat and how he was able to get him up quickly. And he kind of like frowns, and it's clearly he's frowning at that memory. And he says, I wouldn't have been able to help a lot of people if I didn't have your. And he sticks with power as the word because he doesn't. He feels like he should call it a blessing, but he also is like that's not quite the right word.
She she looks she kind of understands what he means.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's very much the yeah, okay, I get what you mean. But she also
There's a very clear difference in how much he values that and how much she values that.
Yeah.
Not the being able to help people thing, but the. It's funny. She almost seems to think that, like, well, duh, that's expected. Of course I'm gonna give you that.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
That's a gimme. That's a freebie.
And he kind of he says that, and he studies her, and he eventually says, "You want to do more?"
Alright. I think a good place to jump off from this would be to explain what I usually do so you understand just how little you let me give you.
And he kind of blinks at that, and then just makes a motion of like, "Okay,
Floor's yours.
floor's yours."
She kind of huffs and says, usually when I find people, when I make my bargains with my various warlocks that I've had over the centuries, it's. I find them in a moment of supremely unsatisfying fucking tragedy. Ugh. And she kind of sticks her tongue out. Just, yuck.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like it, so I pick them up and I put them in my pocket and I bring them with me to my home, I guess you could call it. I bring them with me to Memory Lane. And I talk with them and I offer a bargain, which is they work for me on Memory Lane for an amount of time. And while they work, I try to teach them things that they will find useful, and I intentionally scour the flow of time and memory and various branching existences and realities to find a path that a path a path of least resistance to a happy ending. A path where something good, something satisfying will come of them if they just act as themselves and develop as the story will have them do. It's people trade me some of their time and all of their old memories for a second chance, for a better future. You trade a horrible past for a positive future. I don't. I mean, yeah, I give magic, but that's not the hard work of it. Magic is easy. Magic is just. And she kind of, snaps her fingers, and there's a bright flash in her hand of, golden light, and just. I've got arguably. Well, I'm running low now, but usually I've arguably got too much of the damn stuff. Offloading it costs me nothing. I can give it freely. The actual work that is doing my part in the bargain is the effort that goes in to ensuring a positive future, a positive, happy ending. And
you couldn't give me that guarantee.
I wanted to, but you.
Matthias kind of gives a. It's probably a familiar fond smile because it feels familiar to him.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, "But I didn't have any tragic backstory. If anything, it was my future that was tragic."
You didn't have a future. You didn't. I mean, I personally saw what happened to you as a tragedy. I don't like that stupid parasite thing. And I don't like anybody being forced out of their own life by a power beyond their control. It's unfair. It's unfair and it's tragic, and
So you intervened.
I wanted to make it better. And she kind of frowns and, tugs on one of her curls, and she's not meeting your eyes anymore, Matthias. She's kind of looking out the window and towards the woods and just started doing this whole thing in the first place because over and over and over again they would come to me and they would be broken and they would be tragic, and I wouldn't be able to do anything but send them on to whatever afterlife they were made for, and I got sick of it. Tragedy is boring. Tragedy is unsatisfying. And I wanted satisfaction. They deserved satisfaction. You deserved satisfaction. And over and over and over again, it was being denied. And for what? For what purpose? The person who dies just to motivate somebody else. Does their life not matter? Does everything they could have been not matter? Does everything they could possibly accomplish, all the potential for who they could be, does that not matter anymore than just making someone else feel kind of bad for 10 minutes? All the people who die as collateral in these big, bombastic, end-of-the-world boss fights, are their lives not important?
And he... Oh, go ahead.
And she does look genuinely upset and just... I started doing this whole thing because they were important. They're important to me. They matter to me. They deserve better. You deserved better than to just be a stepping stone on the way to something else's apotheosis.
And he kind of...
so much more potential.
He... Matthias takes all of that in. And he thinks about it. And eventually he says, I think you've given me probably the only thing I could have ever asked for then. 'Cause you gave me a future. And
I did my best.
He nods because he's gathering that, like, this was clearly not an ideal situation, but still, he's making it work. And he's just, And then he thinks a minute and he says, what else would you do then if I were... Given our circumstances, what else would you do then?
Would have taken more time to make sure that you had the skills you needed. That you weren't stumbling into things blind. I did my best while you were with me, but she kind of gives him a bit of a bitter smile of just, you are so stubborn when you put your mind to it.
He ducks his head.
You are so beautifully, stubbornly yourself that anytime I tried to teach you things that I thought would help, would protect you, you had a million reasons why you weren't gonna do it. I tried to teach you to haggle at a supermarket, and you insisted on not doing so. I'm pretty sure purely out of spite.
He can't stop the little, like, huff of laughter as he again he ducks his head a second time, and he's trying to figure out, because he has a thought and he's trying to now figure out how to word it, because he's beginning to get an idea, and it's clearly he's not bothered by this, but it's clear Retro is. So he's trying to figure out a way to, like, because again, he has to please people. He's a people pleaser and he wants to help, and he definitely wants to help his goddess. So he's trying to do his best to figure out how to help. And I think Retro can probably sell that look on his face.
She kind of looks at him for that and just kind of holds up a hand, just like, hang on a sec.
Oh, okay.
And she just says, I can't do much more from our current position. I can't. Not unless you wanted to disappear for 5 years and come back without your memories all over again, which I wouldn't condone at this point. You've come a long way. That... Ugh. She kind of sticks her tongue out again of just ick. I wouldn't want to undo all of that, but... It feels strange when, from my perspective, I've done the bare minimum and you trust me anyway. And she kind of looks at him like, like, why the fuck do you do that?
Would you... Nope, he would not. I was gonna say, he might blurt something out unintentionally, just because it's like, again, this whole, like, all of this conversation feels painfully familiar to him, but it's not. He's getting so much deja vu. But, and I was wondering, would he just blurt out the first thing that pops into his head, and he would not, because he would think it, because he thinks it, and Retro sees his mouth open and then close in surprise at himself.
She tilts her head at that.
And he frowns, stares down at his hands, and he just says, "You're my friend."
Hey, Matthias, roll insight.
Do 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 do. Come on, baby. Oop, that's cocked. Try again.
Oh no, it's cocked.
Okay. I can math. That's a dirty 20.
Okay, yeah. She looks surprised.
He also looks surprised. But the more he thinks about it, the more that he kind of eventually nods and he says, "I think that's why I..." And he eventually looks at Retro again and he says, "You are my friend, and I would feel I would not feel right. That's not right. I do this because you're my friend."
I haven't been a very good friend to you.
I think you've been, based on what you've told me, I think you've been the best friend that you could be.
She kind of winces at that.
And then he kind of also winces and is like, "That's not right. I think I would argue that. I think you were a good... I think I would have told you were a good friend." And you are... And he eventually, he seems to be getting a little more confident in what he's saying as he talks. "You are already moving outside of your comfort by allowing me to be your cleric. And that is... You're already giving more than you would, just differently."
She kind of... Credit to her, she does kind of nod and take that into consideration. And then she kind of looks at him and tilts her head and asks, "But what does that mean to you?" I don't... Matthias, it's been years since I've had an active following, and I'm gonna be honest, there's kind of a brief moment of hurt on her face as she kind of becomes a little more subdued and admits, "After last time, I never wanted one again. I work best from the background, I am the ultimate crew member. I am not part of the main cast. But as the patron of a cleric, I am, intentionally or not, in some kind of spotlight.
And he considers...
Used,
oh, go ahead, sorry.
I'm not used to having my name remembered. I'm not used to having these open channels of communication with someone who puts faith in me rather than just knows who I am. What is it? What is it that you want me to be?
He thinks about that. And he considers, and he picks up the notebook, and he starts to write something down, and then he scribbles it out, and then he starts to write a little slower. And it's clear he's very much, like, thinking about what she's asking of him, and he's thinking very hard about what does he actually want. And he eventually...
I'm a little bit proud of him for that.
Yeah. Like, he's thinking so hard. He's doing so much thinking.
He's doing a big heckin' think.
He's doing one big heckin' think here. And eventually, because he's not trying to hide the notepad from her either. But she can see that he wrote down something, scribbled it out, like, it probably was goddess, or a deity, or something like that, and he scribbles it out. And then he starts writing, and he eventually writes teacher, tutor, mentor, ? And then jumps down a couple lines, writes down patron, writes down like guiding force with more ? And then he writes down friend, and he kind of puzzles at that. And then he says, I think that's what we both need to figure out. I'm comfortable with what we have now, but you are not.
She kind of... Again, there's that moment of just, like... Yeah, no, she is visibly uncomfortable, and she's uncomfortable with the fact she's uncomfortable, because this is not a familiar feeling.
Yeah.
This is somebody who is very used to pattern and to, as she put it, equal give and take, and to clearly outlined expectations. I give you X, you give me Y. Together we accomplish result Z.
Yeah.
This isn't that. This is... You are a presence in my life with no set end objective.
Yeah. And that's...
And she doesn't know what to do with that.
Yeah.
And she doesn't like not knowing what to do. This is someone who has had millennia to figure out what to do in damn near every given situation.
Yeah.
And yet you somehow managed to get her on the back foot.
And he's trying to he's clearly trying to help fix that, which is, or to like help ease that like worry and that fear. And like he eventually, I think, settles on, is there anything that you want to do but are unable that I might be able to do in your stead? Not in your name, but for you.
Ooh, okay. I know that he is doing his best there.
Yeah, he's trying to figure out, like, because he knows that she doesn't want, like, a following, like, because she just said that, like, so he's not trying to, like, do things in the name of Lady Retrospect. He wants to, but he's trying to figure out, like, is there something I can do that would, you know.
Yeah, and here's the thing.
Yeah.
Again, this is a warlock patron who her primary motivation is that she finds joy in giving others satisfaction.
Yeah.
In creating a positive ending for other people. That is her craft, in a way. That is her art. She is the editor divine, and she finds joy in the fine art of the fix-it-fic.
Yeah.
She doesn't like people going out of their way to do things that she wants. She
Gotcha.
really, really hates people taking her her opinions into too much consideration. She doesn't. She's kind of, a bit ironic in that most gods, or a fair few gods at the very least, desire some form of dominion, desire some form of influence on the world, and she's just like, absolutely the fuck not. No. Ugh.
Okay. I think he asks that, and then he can immediately tell that, like, that is not the question to ask, and he goes,
yeah, no, there's like a bit of a Muppet scrunch when he
yeah.
asks that.
And he says, I see. All right. Okay. And he actually, under her line, scribbles down something. This is me not being knowing how he would word it, but he basically is scribbling down, no to favors, basically.
Yeah. And she kind of shakes her head and says, sorry, like I said, I'm bad at this. I know that there's a usual suite of shenanigans that clerics get up to, and when it comes to their gods, what I want from you is for you to be happy. What I want from you is for you to find the path to the best possible story you could live. And to find personal satisfaction, and when the time comes for you to leave the world and come and see me in person, I want you to be able to say that you have nothing left to complete, that you are fully satisfied with everything that you've done.
And he nods.
And that the life you lived was the one you wanted to, even if there were parts along the way that were painful, that were unfortunate, that were traumatizing and awful. And she kind of winces and looks away, because, yeah, she did intentionally put him in Keyes' path.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a mistake, but it doesn't mean that she doesn't recognize that it was cruel.
Mm-hmm.
And I want you to be able to look back on your life and love it in spite of everything that happens.
And Matthias, he thinks about that. He thinks, and he takes that into consideration. And he sets the notebook aside, and he turns to face Retrospect proper. Like, She's sitting on the bed. He was perched. He turns to face her. And he says, "Are you... Would I be wrong in..." No, that's not the right way to phrase that.
Take your time.
He's trying to find out how to word it because he has a thought. And he wants to ask her, would helping to guide him be something she could and wants to do? To, like, basically, she was unable to set him on the path that she really wanted him to, so that he could get the best ending. But would helping to guide him to things that would help fulfill his life be something she's willing to do? Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah, no, and she has an answer to that, and I'm trying to figure out how to phrase it.
yeah. Because that's basically what he's asking, and I just don't know how he would phrase it.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. Sometimes the character voices don't cooperate.
Yeah.
I think her answer to that is yes, but she doesn't want to be the one to decide what will be good for him. She wants it to be his choice.
And he nods at that. Like, he smiles. And he says, "If I were to ask for your help, then, in certain aspects, would that be like help in deciding a path? Would that be something, or help, or guidance? Guidance. If I were to ask for guidance on a path, would that be something you are..."
She kind of thinks and says, I will never make the decision for you. I will never outright tell you, this is the right one, do this. Because I don't do that.
Mm-hmm. He nods.
But if there is a time, I can be there to help you talk it out. I can be there to sound off of. And while I can't give you every little secret of the universe, even if I may have them stockpiled away somewhere, she kind of rolls her eyes at the idea of her own massive library at home.
Mm-hmm.
I can offer you a little bit of outside perspective. I can offer you hints and thoughts as to angles you might not have considered. Or I can just be there to listen. Because sometimes it really does help to just have someone there and start talking.
And he smiles at that, and he says, "I think I was right when I said you were my friend."
And she kind of tilts her head at that.
He just kind of shrugs and says, "That's what friends do." I guess what you can do for me, Lady Retrospect, is be my friend.
And that's really all you want?
I think so, yeah. At least right now.
Kind of smiles at that. Tilts her head. offers him a hand.
And he'll take her hand.
She gives him a bit of a handshake.
Mm-hmm.
Friends, then.
Friends.
And she does kind of sit. It's definitely not her usual arrangement, but that's something she can be a little more easy about, of just,
Mm-hmm.
okay, this is a friend. This is not Jubilee. He doesn't want me to be his mom.
No.
And this is not, you know, any other situation where it's someone who doesn't really know me but knows that I act as a guiding star. You know, like what she's got with Dakota.
Yeah.
This is a friend. She can handle a friend.
Yeah.
And then she thinks about something and she kind of frowns and she looks at him and says, "The question you asked me when you first got here, something about it bugs me."
He tilts his head. What do you mean?
Matthias, why are you so fixated on who you used to be?
He kind of blinks and he says, well, I mean, I have no memory of who I was, and is it not I'd like to know. It clearly, I mean, and he kind of like makes a vague like gesture around them of like at the everything happening.
Mm-hmm.
And he just says, I it I don't I want to know because there was clearly so much there, and I mean, it's only natural to want to know who you were, right?
And she thinks about that and nods and says, "I can understand that. I can understand if you don't have context, you're going to start looking for it. But now that you know, why, what does it change? You didn't have the answer, and now you do, in a small sense of it at least. What does that change?"
He kind of thinks. And he gives a little laugh and he just says, I mean, I guess it explains why Miss Lynn always told me to stay shifted when I go outside, but I guess it doesn't change much otherwise.
She kind of tilts her head and says, "So, aside from other people being cagey about it, which I can't blame them for, but dear God, they could have handled that better, why does it matter?"
And he tries to like get an answer together because he's trying to think of why it matters and he can't really find like a reason that's not just because just because.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't feel like a good enough answer. So he's thinking, and he's thinking, and he keeps thinking.
Yeah. And she kind of... So the stuff we talked about in DMs before there's FPS.
Mm-hmm.
Is that kind of some of the sort of stuff that he would have, said to her in prayers or maybe thought out loud a bit about after, the unpleasantness?
Probably. Probably, yeah.
Okay. She kind of tilts her head and says, "You've been so fixated on this idea that you have their soul, but you don't. You have your soul. You have the soul I helped you make, and everything that comes after. Is you. It's not them, and it will never be them. Even if you were to suddenly, on a whim, hairpin turn, pivot, and face heel turn right this second. Decide, actually, you're going to usurp this story, and you're going to be the big bad twist villain. You wouldn't be them. You would be someone else."
And he considers this. And he tries to he thinks, and he says, I feel I but and then he frowns and he thinks and he says, when that happened, I they were I would and he frowns because he's clearly like, this whole situation is also confusing because he was Matthias in the past until Ongum, and then Matthias basically stopped being, but yet still was, and yet was not, and
Fun little paradox situation.
Fun little paradox situation there, where Matthias was there, but it was mostly an echo, and that echo faded over time until basically all that remains is what Thrall is now. And he's trying to, like, he hasn't reached the echo analogy yet. He's still in the paradox of it. And he's trying to puzzle that out, and he says, I was them. They were me. It was a life, and it was mine, and I know now that part of our arrangement means that I don't remember, but it's still... And he tries to, like, he eventually settles on, that life still mattered. And I guess I want to do right? And he kind of, like, squints, because that's the best he can come up with. And he says, I want to do right by that, and by them, me?
You're already doing that. And she kind of looks at him and tilts her head. And it's funny, you know, the stuff he's saying is very in line with what she explained when she was explaining why, you know, she started interfering with mortal lives in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And she kind of tilts her head and says, "You're already doing right by that life. Because that life wasn't going to have an opportunity to continue. And it has, if you want to think of it that way, it has continued through you. But it is still your life, not theirs."
He considers this, takes it in. And he says, I. It. And then he kind of gives her, like. I don't want to say it's a rueful little smile, but it's just like. It's a isn't this ironic kind of smile. He just says, I feel like I should do more. Because he's kind of getting where Retro's coming from now, of like, that can't be it, that can't be right. No, I need to do, like, I need to do more. I need to do, like, that's this is this doesn't feel like I'm doing enough.
And she does actually laugh a bit, and it's, you know, she's not mocking him, it's just the whole, you know, oh yeah, that's the point of irony. Welcome to the club, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
She, you know, laughs and shakes her head and says, I understand the feeling, don't, as we've been over.
He
I think
Oh, go ahead.
the thing that I've heard you know, saying and that comes up between you and your friends and whatnot is you have this idea in your head that you have their soul, and that has to mean something.
And he nods.
You're so fixated on where your component piece came from, where the origin point is, that you can't look up to see the horizon. You have this idea in your head that where you came from has to be super duper important. But who you could be is equally as important as who you were, and a lot more interesting. There's a lot more potential there. Who you were will only ever have one answer, and if you want to fight for the rest of your life to come to terms with that or figure out what that means to you, that is one way to do it. But who you could be has a lot more answers. Who you want to be is far more interesting.
He takes all of this in, and he eventually he kind of quietly says, what if there's something in their past that in that past that would help us to stop them, though. And Retro, I'm gonna just say, like, as, the owner of these two idiots, there's nothing there. Like, Retro can choose to give him this information or not, but basically there is nothing, like, in there that would help, basically. There is no magic MacGuffin that, or hidden weakness or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. I think she kind of hesitates, and in her own head, she's thinking about that because she knows this.
Mm-hmm.
But as mentioned at the beginning of this FPS, this woman is allergic to giving a straight answer.
Correct.
But at the same time, Matthias has said that he wants her to be his friend.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes being someone's friend means doing something that will make you uncomfortable temporarily to help them in the long run.
Yeah.
Here, in the real world, that might be helping people move sucks.
Yes.
But being a good friend means sometimes you have to help a friend move a couch up a flight of stairs.
And then you get pizza afterwards.
And then you get pizza afterwards. It's great.
Yeah.
And so she kind of hesitates. And she looks at him. Do you want to know the answer to that?
He looks a little surprised. And I'm gonna roll a d20 because he's got a lot of thoughts going on just based on that right there. So I'm gonna see if he can puzzle out an answer there and see what he comes to. And of course that's when you roll an 18 on the dice, you motherfucker. So he looks at Retro and he takes all of he thinks about what she has just asked him, and he says after a moment, even if there was something, it wouldn't change what's happening, would it?
She shakes her head.
And he nods. And I mean, Retro can roll an insight if she wants, but this boy is an open book. Like,
oh yes, do we want to have her roll her stupid high insight?
yeah, her stupid high insight that I think just beats him on principle. Like,
oh no, it was only a 5 on the dice, which means it's a 30.
yeah. So, like, she can tell that he kind of deflates when she shakes her head, but there's a bit of relief there as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then he nods. He says, all right, that's I kind of figured, but it's good to know. And he looks back at Retro and he says, what if I wanted to just learn that history? Not of myself, but actually, wait, would he know that shit? Hang on. Wait. Hang on.
Wait, hold.
Hold. I might be metagaming. Hang on.
Lore check.
I don't think he knows about the changeling. I just now realized, I was like, I don't think he knows about the whole changelings, like, the whole coven of changeling clerics that followed Ongum. I don't know if he knows that yet. I think Decimal just mentioned that Ongum took his soul and a bunch of his followers. And
RJ says correct.
okay, cool. So that is okay. So in that case, it wasn't a cult. It's not a cult. But if that's the case, then
it's not a cult, Mom.
It's not a cult. It was just a following of clerics who were a bunch of teachers, but he doesn't know that. So he so he doesn't ask that. Never mind. That was metagaming. He instead he thinks, and he has another, like, he has a question / thought, and he's going to pose it out loud, but it's clear he doesn't expect, like, it's clear he's more voicing it for himself to, like, and to have keep kind of Retro in the loop of what he's thinking, I guess would be the best way to word this. Because he then kind of asks, if I wanted to look into Ongum, that's different than knowing about who I was. That's more... And he's trying to find the right word, like, and eventually he settles on, that's... I would want to do that regardless. And it's Retro rolling off, you're 30.
My funny little 30.
Your funny little 30. You're realizing he's kind of doing the thing where he's picking apart his emotions to figure out, am I doing this because I am like, it's the separating the, I'm doing this because I'm a well-trained pet, and I'm doing this because I'm a person and I have wants and needs, basically. And so he's picking apart, am I doing this because I want to know more about myself, and this blindness in my information is what, like, this blindness in my memory is what's driving me, or am I doing this because I would want to do this I would do this regardless of that knowledge, kind of deal. So he's puzzling this out, and Retro can see him puzzling it out, and he says, I would look into Ongum regardless, because that would help, and I want to help the others because I want them to be safe. And then he looks at Retro and he says, would you be able to point me towards information, or is that asking too much?
She kind of... Because, like, she's of two minds about that. One, she's super proud of him for picking that out.
Yeah.
She's so proud of her boy.
Yeah, he's doing...
that. He's doing so good.
He's doing so good.
She's so proud of him. And there is part of her that wants to encourage this, because, again, her entire motivation is satisfaction. Is what will make this person happy. What will lead them to the best possible end result.
Yeah.
And if Matthias wants to help with the Nickel Squad War shenanigan plotline...
Yep.
Yeah. Information on Ongum, damned useful.
It is. But she also would
But
know he doesn't want to just be given that information.
yeah, she also knows that, and she knows that there's a very, 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 very small handful of people in the world who know who and what Angam is.
Yep.
And that poking that information with a stick,
Mm-hmm.
if you are not careful about it, is gonna leave little splinters of that stick in the information. It's
Yeah.
gonna leave evidence. It's gonna give something that could track back to you.
Yeah.
And given the person who knows the most about Angam currently,
Yeah.
the very last thing they need is Matthias poking that information with a stick.
Yeah. Yeah.
And getting caught
Yep.
by the bastard.
Yep. 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 Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And I think she doesn't, obviously say all of that in as much words.
Right.
But there is kind of an out loud pondering of that information is definitely useful, and she can definitely understand why he would want it, and she can even acknowledge that, yeah, it would be helpful. It's a high risk.
Mm-hmm.
Looking for that information would be a gamble. And it's not one that she wants him to take.
Yeah.
Because it could end very, very, very badly.
Yeah. And he considers this. It's very clear, Retro, that he is weighing the options. Which, fucking motherfucker. But he's weighing
this
his...
is how we ended up in this situation in the first place.
Yep. He's weighing his options there of like, well, but it would help. But... So
But
he's...
it could cost your personhood a second time over.
Yeah, exactly. So he's kind of just like... He takes all of that in, and he nods, and he says, I see. So if I find anything, I should be very cautious.
Very much so.
And he nods.
She thinks about it for a minute. And then kind of taps the bedspread in front of her. And sits up a little more and spreads her hands. How about a compromise?
He blinks.
After short, green, and assholery has been dealt with, if you still want to know about Angam, I will guide you in the right direction. Because then they won't be there to give you trouble about it.
And he thinks about this.
And in the meantime, if you can find another type of information that you think would better equip you to help, that doesn't, risk tossing you right back into the lion's den. Because, she kind of, again, reaches over and boops him on the nose.
And he ducks his head.
It was tricky enough getting 3 people over there the first time.
He ducks his head.
Or, no, not 3 people, 4 people.
Yeah.
Tricky enough getting all of them over there the first time. I would do it again in a heartbeat, of course, but
Mm-hmm.
maybe don't make me do it on short notice, yeah?
He ducks his head and he nods.
She kind of smiles and says, but in the meantime, if you find something that you think will help, and it's not going to be something that's going to immediately throw you right into their line of fire, call me. You have, and she gestures over at the little ritual,
Mm-hmm.
you have a means, call me. I will do my best to check that it's not going to put you in danger, and if it's not, set you in the right direction.
And he mulls this over. Weighs like considers what she says, and he says, "All right, that's fair."
And she kind of smiles and says, you're still terrible at bargaining.
He kind of, I think in a rare moment, he just kind of says, "Well, I never learned to haggle now, did I?"
I tried to teach you. It's your damn fault.
And he laughs.
She just kind of throws her hands up in the air, and it's very clearly like theatrical frustration.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
She's laughing the whole time.
And he feels a bit of pride at that. Like, yay, I got her to laugh.
She kind of smiles and says, but that's something you can live with?
He nods. He says, "I can live with that."
And she nods. And on that regard, at least the terms are set.
He smiles, and after a moment, he says, "Thank you."
Of course.
I don't just mean for that. I mean for, I guess. And he just kind of gestures around. Like, this. Thank you.
She kind of snorts and shakes her head and every once in a while I forget how different mortal standards are to mine. And she kind of shakes her head and says, you're welcome. I am happy to have done it.
And that, he gives her like a very warm smile. Very bright.
And she kind of smiles back and then, because she's herself, kind of takes on the jokey tone of like, what a friend's for after all, right?
Right.
Still very much trying to get used to the term.
Yeah. And his smile turns into a full-blown grin and he says, "Right, exactly."
And she just kind of does like a little, happy clap of just, yes, I got it right.
And he doesn't have anything else that he wants to ask her, and he is unsure how to gracefully say, like, I've taken up enough of your time because that's not the right, like, that's not, how this works. But, like,
Given what we discussed for the ending,
yeah.
I believe I can answer.
Yeah. So,
So,
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
sorry, you go ahead.
I was going to say, because I think we've covered everything else.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
And she kind of, like, she smiles at that, and she's, got the smiles and laughter, you know. But then something catches her attention. She looks out the window. Is Matthias's window near his bed?
Yes, it is almost directly, like, so it's the layout of the room in my head is like the window and the bed sort of overlap a little bit, like not all the way but a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So like half of the bed, so you could stand up and look out the window, or you could sit on the bed and look out the window.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so she turns and she looks out the window, and Matthias, you have the countdown clock, right?
Yes, he does.
You become aware of a very short timer suddenly blinking into existence.
He sits up at that.
And Retro is looking out the window with an expression that... Roll me insight one more time.
Yep, we'll see. Come on. 18 plus... nope. Plus 9,
9, right?
is 27. Yes, 27.
Yeah, okay, so he gets a lot of the nuances here because she is looking out the window and there is a complicated mess of expressions on her face of just... There's concern in just kind of, the general set of her face, but there's also, in the tightness around her eyes, there's a bit of pain. And he would notice, like, a small curl of white smoke going up from the corner of her mouth as she kind of moves a hand more towards her chest. There is a little bit of fear, but most of it is recognition or resignation of, that's happening.
And he sits up at that, like he sits straight, and I almost think he starts to get off of the bed, but he asks, Lady Retrospect, what is it?
You are gonna want to lay down.
What do you mean?
Just trust me on this one. You're gonna want to be laying down for this, because otherwise it's gonna be a pain in the ass when you wake back up. And outside the window, kind of from the direction of the woods, despite the fact that everything outside has been slowed to a near complete stop, there is a flash of a very familiar kind of gold. Because Matthias has seen Memoir's magic before. Somewhere from deep in the trees, there is that gold spreading. It almost looks like lightning. That way that lightning, you see the full fractal of it for a second and then it's gone.
Yeah.
It's that, but instead of being the kind of organic squiggly shapes of lightning, it is cracks, like you would see in glass.
He sees all this, and he's more alarmed. He's still half perched on the bed, but he's like more alarmed, and he just says, "What's happening? What's going on?"
It's a complicated thing to explain, but I think things are gonna be okay. It's just not gonna look like it for a second. And she kind of glances down at Matthias's hand. And is he wearing the ring that he got from Memoir?
Yes.
Yeah, so Matthias, she glances at that ring on your hand as the glass set into it begins to glow in that same golden color.
Mm-hmm.
And she says something else, but you don't hear it.
Yeah.
Because in your head, there is something far, far louder.
Mm-hmm.
It starts as a very human sounding scream, and then it splits into a chorus, and then that chorus distorts until it's the horrible shriek of metal against glass. And the last thing you're aware of is that shrieking hitting a crescendo,
Mm-hmm.
and then a shattering sound.
And then he falls limp on the bed.
Mm-hmm. Everything goes dark. And Retro, for her part, looks across this moment stretched into an eternity and kind of sighs, nudges Matthias, gets him, tucked into bed, takes off his shoes if he has them on.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure he's comfortable. Looks at the ring on his hand again. Puts her hand to her chest. And doesn't say anything. But sighs, shakes her head, and walks out of the room, snuffing out the candle as she goes. And that's where we fade out.
And that's where we fade out. And we will catch you all again in the next one.
Thank you so much for playing with me, Hex.
Yeah.
It was so much fun.
Yeah, thank you. That was great.
I think we all ought to say...
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say I'm going to stop the recording now. So, bye-bye, everybody. Thanks for
Bye-bye,
listening.
listeners.